In this one, Cross/Slash Build Guide. It's a physical dagger skill. Let's talk about critical and maximized status skill boards, zodiacs, relics, uniques, and endgame setups. Before getting into the video, there is a few things to know. First of all, it's a shadow skill. So by default, we want to run a shadow warrior link rune. It's area scaling, that means it's gonna be easy to do that through the link rune and through the zodiacs. Also, it has a chance to deal triple maximized damage, and this is really important. It's gonna enable the scaling from the maximized damage basically from the start of the game. And the base speed amplification is just gonna mean that we don't need to focus that much on attack speed and we can pick up more damage earlier in the game. With that out of the way, let's get into the build. Start the skill board. Let's start with Cross/Slash. We have Warrior Shadow. This one you can pick up from a rare selection chest. Confidence. For attack speed, we want to reach attack speed cap, which is 5. Additional physical damage is just for the flat damage. Flat damage early is super strong. Quick attack, again, for attack speed. Area effect, just to scale a little bit multi-target. And extract earth energy. If you don't need that much attack speed, because you are running a dagger with a lot of attack speed on it, you can switch this for find weakness. Anything else that gives you damage. Even slaughter. Attack Enhance is Fight as Rat, linked with increased duration, time acceleration, and enhance effect. Enhance effect is from the guild rates. Bulwark of Protection is a defense enhance linked with increased duration and time acceleration. Shadow Provocation in here is to provide armor amplification. It's linked with Shadow Power, Lingering Shout, Hushed Shout, and buff activation when hit, so it would proc automatically whenever we take damage. Shadow of Justice in here is just to remove hard crowd control, linked with Lingering Shout, Hushed Shout, buff activation upon crowd control. You don't have to aim for Shadow of Justice super early, but it's a decent link rune to have to make yourself a little bit more tankier. For a defensive seal, I have Seal of Dodge, but you don't have to use Seal of Dodge. You can use any defensive seal that you have, and there is plenty of choices. From elemental to chaos resist to elemental damage dampenings to physical damage dampenings, whichever one you have, and if it works for you, it's fine. For offensive seal, I have Seal of Critical Chance, and this is probably the best one to use. Illusion Axe in here is more like a placeholder. I have it with lower armor to reduce the armor of the enemies. The only problem with the lower armor, it's only works on single target when there is only one enemy on the map, because it can only apply one stack per cast. Doesn't matter that you're gonna hit like 10 enemies with your Illusion Axe, you're only gonna apply one stack on one enemy out of that. And of course it's linked with dampened resource cost to make our mana a little bit healthier. Leap attack and roll in here is as movement abilities linked with disarm. Zodiacs. Let's start with stats. Stats, you only need to have as many to equip your items and to equip your skill runes. There is no default way to do this, so I'm leaving it at 10s as it doesn't matter. For the passives themselves, let's start with the first one. We want to go for the Strong Strike. We want to go for physical damage. On the second, on the third we go for melee damage and of course melee damage amplification. In here we want to get as much area of effect as possible, as it's gonna give us more multi-target. We have 20 points, so with 2 more points we're gonna unlock the first specialization. So what we want to do, we want to pick up Major Body to begin with. We're gonna come back to this, and right now the first specialization opens up. And it gets a little bit more complicated in here. By default, for all of the players, I suggest just to go Steel. Even though this is not 100% correct decision, but it makes easier life for the new players. In here we want to pick up HP absorb on hit, this is important, and convert mana. These 5 points is gonna solve all of your mana issues and your survivability issues, as HP absorb on hit is really good. With that in mind, we have 2 more points, we go into acceleration. To unlock 2 extra points in here, you need to finish the campaign and do the green questline in Saluto on the Chaos statue. With that out of the way, we can go back in here and pick up Physical Distortion. It's really important to have status effect rate. As this is a critical, we go for Elaborate Attack and Rainbow Bridge. Also, we pick up Hands Quicker Than Light for extra attack speed. That unlocks the 6th, and here is another. We only want to use 1 point in here, at 45 points, we unlock a second specialization. We want to go Iron Will for some defense and a lot of damage amp against enemies affected by dot. And we do dot because we apply bleed, and bleed is a type of dot damage. Again, we can only use 7 points. 2 extra points gonna be later into the game when you finish that Saluto questline. We go back, we want to finish this one, pick up Annihilation, go in here, pick up physical damage, and pick up really important desertification for area effect. We need that for this build. We have 65 points. We go and we pick up additional lightning damage. Why is that? Because we're gonna be able to apply shock when we have additional lightning damage, and shock is a type of debuff that increases our damage dealt by a lot. At 70 points, we unlock a third specialization, and there is a choice. By default, I suggest to go and pick up Malice and just carry your damage through Malice. This is what we want to have. There is a few more options, but those options I'm gonna leave later into the game for more of our end game build guide. But for now, do this. For early game, it's perfectly fine. We have a lot of leftover points. We can go and spend those basically in many places. We want to go in here and pick up this sweep. We also want to spend some points in Pharma. Also, a good choice is to spend some points for potions, as this also affects mana potions, HP potions, not just enhanced potions. With 10 points left, we can do a few things. So that thing is gonna be Fighting Spirit, and we actually only have 1 point left. You can pick up Power of Harmony if you have the stats. 4 points basically goes into specializations. For Charm Blessings, we want to have Hamal, Alyssa, Boreal, and Castor. All of these 4 are really good as we scale damage from them. What you want to start with, it doesn't really matter. They are all equal besides the Castor. Leave the Castor for the last. It doesn't really matter that much early. So Boreal, Hamal, Alyssa for starters is a really good choice. For charms, we are looking at this: critical rate, critical damage, and maximized damage. Alyssa, Hamal, Boreal, Castor. This is basically a best in slot charm. High chance you're not gonna be able to get too many of these, but the 2 most important affixes in here is critical rate and critical damage for the critical build that we are doing. If you have these 2, the third affix can be anything. It can be HP multiplier, it even can be chaos or elemental resistance. The third affix doesn't really matter that much. As soon as you have these 2, you are good to go. For a legendary prefix, we want to look for maximization chance. This is the best one we can have, as we are doing a hybrid build whenever we do critical. And strike damage amplification. Strike damage amplification is a nice damage to have. For relics, we want to start with Castor and pick up for a passive. We have a few choices. We can go for strength. Sanctum effect is really nice early. So Sanctum is basically the buffs that we get on the maps like swiftness, enhancement, expertise, and so on. And the last one is probably the best one, is area of effect. For active skill, we want to go for sensory stimulation for physical damage amplification and pick up cooldown recovery speed and increase buff effect. For second, we can go and choose defensive one, which is Sebda for extra chaos resist on the passive. For the third, we can go more damage and pick up Spica. In here, choose powerful damage. Or if you don't have 10 earth energies, you can pick up enhance earth energy. For the last one is gonna be Boreal, as Boreal gives HP and it can only be level 15. For a starter maximized build, we only have to do a few changes. So first of all, you really want to have Band of Certainty unique ring. It can be even low tier, but you need to have it. After that, we go for the seal, and instead of critical chance, we use Seal of Persistence. This is a lot of damage. For the Zodiacs, we want to pick up, instead of Elaborate Attack, we want to go for Distorted Senses. Charm affixes for the maximized build are these. We are still using the same blessings. We want to have at least damage multiplier and maximize damage multiplier. Those 2 are the most important. The third one depends whether you are using dual wielding or one-hander. Also, we can get HP or elemental and chaos resistances. This would be the best, but HP is also fine. For the legendary prefix, we only scale from strike damage amplification. We do not scale from maximization chance as much, so strike damage amp is the best to have. A later skill board for cross slash. This one assumes a few things. That you no longer need attack speed as a link runes and no longer need physical damage as a link rune. With that in mind, on cross slash, it's Source Awakening for extra strike range count, so more multi-target. Water Shadow Awakening to Source, Extract Earth Energy, Fighting Spirit Awakening to Source, Iron Will Awakening to Origin. This one assumes that you have 24k HP or even more, and you have 500 strength. Strike Awakening to Source. This one assumes you are overcapping your attack speed, and Concentrated area damage assumes that you have enough area effect to not make it worse, and it's Awakening to Origin. You can also awaken it to more damage if you want to go for something like Source Awakening. If you don't have HP or attack speed, there is always another link runes to choose. What we're looking for is basically damage amplification. And there is many damage amps that has no negative effects. One of that would be Focus. You can go for this one. Mana Storm increases your mana cost, but this should be doable. If mana is too much, we can pick up melee damage amplification. On the Fighter's Rot, we want to go for Source. I also have it linked with Totem activation upon using Enhanced skill. With Weakened Totem Awakened to Origin, and Weakened Totem has Enhanced Totem Awakened to Origin and Area Totem Awakened to Source. Also, Fighter's Rot has decreased duration, but you have to be careful with decreased duration. It might reduce your damage if your basic duration is really low. Another difference is Veil of Protection Awakened to Source, so this is a defensive layer to the build. You want to go for projectile damage taken decrease, so you want to activate Wind Whale. Seal of Dodge Awakened to Verity, Seal of Striking Awakened to Verity. This one assumes that you no longer need that much critical rate. If you still need critical rate, still use Seal of Critical Chance. Illusion Axe Awakened to Verity, even though that doesn't really matter that much. It has low armor, again for single target damage, and Center of Gravity Awakened to Verity for damage multiplier per stack. When you awaken to Verity, it doesn't remove when you move. Leap Attack and Roll doesn't really matter, they are still linked with Disarm. You could choose like Penetrating Slash, but I don't really like it. I think Leap Attack right now is a little bit better. Bulwark of Protection Awakened to Source, it's linked with Vitality Recovery. On Shadow Provocation, we want to go Source. It has also Shadow Power, Hushed Shadow Awakening to Source, and Lengthening Shadow Awakening to Origin. Shadow of Justice Awakened to Verity, of course, together with buff activation upon crowd control. This skill board is basically what you look for when you start to tap into the later games. There is a few more changes to do, but those are a little bit more build specific, and this is a little bit more of a default approach. At this stage of the game, there is many things that we can change on the Zodiacs, but first of all, let's start with those extra 4 points for specializations. If we are still doing Steel, we want to go for Strike Damage Amp, and on the second one, we can do a few switches. If you no longer need Defensive Layer, you can just go and pick up some Damage Amp against crowd control enemies. In this case, it's gonna be against stunned enemies. On the other Zodiacs, again, we can do so many things. First of all, we want to remove Rainbow Bridge. It's no longer necessary on this one. At this stage, you should have Display of Lightning crafted on your items or your Lacrima. That's another few points. Those points can be spent in many ways. This one would be the easiest one, just to pick up more damage amps elsewhere. If you have enough points, you can even go for 500 strength or 500 dexterity. Those should work also fine. With this, we have a basic setup to do late game. There is also a question of different specializations. For example, if Malice damage is no longer that big part of your damage, we can remove this. And this is gonna happen. As soon as you reach higher numbers, Malice is not gonna be that big. With that in mind, we can start going into Tipan and just pick up, if we are dual wielding, we pick up dual wielding app. And then into this, even though it's weapon range, we still scale from amplifies damage upon attacking. If you're one-hander, you pick up one-hander. This would be like basic changes or basic approach to this one. For a maximized build, we are doing exactly the same. we want to switch for Seal of Persistence, and instead of using, for example, concentrated area damage, you can use Smash. Smash is a really big damage. On the Zodiacs, don't forget to pick up Distorted Senses instead of Elaborate Attack. For masteries, go this. On the weapon, we want to have Acute Strike. On the armor, we want to have Recovery Resilience. On accessory, we want to go for Sea of Life. This is pretty much a default setup. There is not much min-maxing to do in here. For unique, I'm only gonna mention one, as it is a skill-specific unique, and it's called Miraceti C Dagger. This dagger has so much damage by default, and on top, it gives maximization chance and cross slash maximize damage. And cross slash does maximize damage by default, as it has the triple maximize damage on the tooltip. With this dagger, cross slash is super strong. If you have a Scepter Longing Shield that makes you cast Illusion Hook in all directions, this is what you can do. On your skill board, instead of using your movement abilities, you can add Flash. And on top of Flash, you can link it with spell activation on attack hit with the Illusion Hook. And it's gonna make this build so much more fun. Also, you can link plenty more link runes on the Illusion Hook to buff your damage, and that would be cut. But for now, I'm only gonna show you a very default way to do this. And this is how it looks on maps. Running Flash as a movement ability could also be not a bad choice in general. The only problem is, it feels kinda a little bit short distance, but when you have enough attack speed, you're gonna be going really fast. And this is how it looks with Transcended Scepter Longing Shield. As I said before, you can make it so it would increase your damage if you can apply more debuffs on Illusion Hook. There is a few more things that you can do with your specializations. And one of that, if you have a Transcendent called Blooded Burden that increases the bleed damage by 300%, with these folders, you really want to run the Malice, the Enlargement. And in here, pick up Omen Destruction and Catastrophic Stream, as those folders gonna make you do so much more damage. Besides that, there is also a few other choices that we can make, especially when we are this late into the game. One of that would be to go Hammer Specialization and just pick up as much area effect as possible to scale your multi-target damage, or just to make your skill have more cleave, right? So on the Hammer, we could go into area damage amp, and into something like attack speed amplification. The only problem with the Hammer spec, there is no HP absorb and there is no convert mana. That means you have to solve those through crafts. And that might prove difficult to most of the players. But this is an option and you're gonna see some people running this. So I have to mention this. On the Vrat, we want to go area damage amplification. We have a little bit more leeway in here. If we are critical, we can go crit rate, crit damage. If we want more defense, we can go armor amplification and damage sink and dampening when 50 or less HP. On the third one, we can go into Flame. In here, pick up and range, area damage amp, as much area effect as possible, area damage during the shout skill, as our shout at this stage should be 100% uptime. We can also roll something like punishment. There is like many choices to do in here. Also, an option is to go Dawn spec. Dawn has everything. It has HP absorb on hit, which we would like to pick up, and strike damage amplification would be the first one, like this. I'm gonna show that one, as Hammer is a little bit more weird. This one is much simpler. If we need convert mana, we remove strike and pick up this. I'm gonna leave strike damage amp, as that is most likely what you're gonna choose. In here we go Tempest. There is not that many choices, especially if you are not a critical build. If you're a critical build, just go for this and you don't need to spend any more points. You can even go pick up Tempest. On the third one, we want to go in here, considering that we're gonna use movement abilities. Remember, Flash is not a movement ability, but this would be another option to go for. Something like that. With specializations, we kind of have quite a few choices, and these basically are all of the choices that you can do. This would be it for this one. If you have any questions, ask them on YouTube, and don't forget to check the description for Undecember builds Google Sheet. In that sheet, you're gonna find what items you need to craft, what type of lacrima you can do, and so much more information. Don't forget to do that. But for this one, I'm done. If you have any questions, you can even find me live streaming. Just ask them anytime. GG's, bye-byes, and see you in the season.